Hey everyone, Tammylynn. Welcome to my kitchen. Today what we're going to make is a little meal together. We're going to make a cranberry baked chicken with some mashed potatoes and some vegetables on the side. This is a dish that I haven't made for a little while, but I just chose to make it today. My husband loves it, my family loves it, so that's all that matters. As long as the family likes it, you have a winner. So we're going to make it together today, okay? So let's start cooking, yeah? So we have some chicken that's been thrown out. Let's cut this open. And what we have today is, I guess, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You can have whatever type of chicken you want. Most of the time, I'll either have legs or I'll have a thigh. It goes best with this. I've already preheated the oven for 375, and that's what you're going to bake it under. So first, let's get this here cleaned up. So I washed the chicken. You're just going to season it up real easy and simple. Salt and pepper, garlic powder, and I have some paprika. So season it up with some pepper. Make this a little bit more coarse. There you go. And you can put as much seasoning as you want. We tend to get our chicken from the deli section in Whole Foods, so it's already cut up in little small pieces. Some salt. So this is going to go great with this dish because you don't have to worry about removing bones or anything else. Some garlic powder. Love garlic powder. And some paprika. Nope, sorry. This is cayenne pepper. Guess I don't have any more paprika, but just give it a little bit of heat. And sprinkle that on how much you want. Just to give it some nice little flavor. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to pull out some peppers, some onions, some celery, and we're going to cut those things up small, and we're going to put that all in this dish along with the cranberries. And one thing that I tend to say a lot, I have my bag right here to dispose of any type of trash. If your kitchen is like mine, I don't have a little trash can underneath the sink, can't really fit or it's not really big enough, and my trash is off to the side. So what I tend to do is I have a paper bag that I put all of my trash in, so then everything is discarded very easily and simple. So we're gonna have some pepper. Now one thing with this dish here is the more colors, the prettier it is, right? So you can have red pepper, orange pepper, yellow pepper, green pepper. You can have it all in this dish, and it just adds and enhances the flavor for it. So first thing that I tend to do is cut it in slices first. And remember, we're not chefs, so cut it up however you see fit or how thick you like it. And then you're going to turn it off to the side, and then you're going to slice. Guess I need a bigger knife. That's better. So one thing about with dishes that require a lot of color, you actually tap into other different health benefits that the various colors offer. So when you're doing a colorful dish, it's always good to try to change it up as much as you can. And you're just going to pour this on top of the chicken. There's no specific way, you're just going to pour it on top. When you have more colors as far as your peppers, you don't have to use as much. I just used half of a green pepper. I'm going to use red pepper that I have left. I wish I would have had some orange pepper or some yellow pepper. That would have been nice. Cut this off. So now we're just going to slice up the red pepper the same way. Turn around and you're going to dice it. Now it doesn't have to be really small pieces unless you want it that way, you know. But you're adding some vitamin C and some antioxidants and some stuff for your brain and your heart and your liver and your blood. You know, all these different type of things. When you have more colors, you're adding different type of benefits to you. Have some onion, one that I already had sliced. Got the sides, peel off the skin. Then I'm going to leave the bottom of the onion so that I can slice it. Because what I'm going to do is that I'm not going to cut it all the way through. But this is just an easy way for you to go ahead and dice it. Because you know, sometimes with onions, it can go all over the place. So I'm going to show you guys. So you see I have the end of the onion and I just sliced it. Let me see if I can show you. Slice it. You see how it's spaced out? And then all you're going to do is dice. And it already comes chopped for you. Simple ways, listen. Anything that makes your life a little bit easier in the kitchen, let's do it. And you're just going to pick up the onion and you're going to put it all over the chicken in the pan. So that's just show you what it looks like so far, right? So you can see all the colors starting to come through. We're going to take some celery, maybe just one stalk of celery. You can judge it however you want. Let's wash this off. And one thing about the celery I've noticed, I have some celery in the garden. When you grow your own fruits and vegetables, you can eat everything. So since I've been growing it in the garden, I've been actually eating the leaves and stuff. And you know, a lot of times when we buy it in the stores, we discard the leaves, we discard the top of the stems and stuff like that, and we only eat the thick part of the stalk. But since I've been growing in the garden, I've been eating everything. Everything that grows, except for, I guess, the very thick stalks of the stumps of the plant, not necessarily eating that. But the leaves, the actual part of the vegetable that grows for celery specifically, I eat everything. And it's awesome because it adds almost like a herb. You know how we put like thyme and oregano and parsley and different things like that. When you use the leaves of the celery, it's like an herb, but it has a celery type taste to it and gives it that flavor if you don't want to use a lot of celery. All right, so this is all chopped up. We're just going to take this and pour it over the chicken. So now we have some cranberries. I just tend to use Ocean Spray, the dried cranberries. You can get the ones that has different flavors to it. I just get the original. Very simple, very easy. And I just pretty much just pour it over my chicken. You can put as much as you want. I tend to like it, especially when it starts to render down in the sauce and everything else. Woo, it's gonna taste good. Okay. So just to show you guys again, so you see the cranberries on top, everything is kind of layered. But once you put it in the oven, all the flavors and everything is going to melt down into the chicken. It's going to taste so delicious. So here I'm going to top it off with a little bit of more salt. I buy minced garlic. The minced garlic, I just put a little bit on top just to give it a nice little flavor to it, let it melt down through it. Just little pieces throughout the actual pan and the dish, because sometimes garlic can be overpowering. So you just put a little bit on there, but I tend to like garlic. But if you guys don't like garlic, you don't have to put it on top. But it just adds an additional flavor because you want lots of flavor to flow through this dish. Now what you're going to do, you're going to take some barbecue sauce and you're going to drizzle it on top. Put a little bit of water into the pan, not much, because the moisture from you washing the chicken is still in the pan, right? So I have some local made barbecue sauce made in Florida. My husband and I likes to support our local farmers and things that are made locally. So we have some, this is Tom's Guava barbecue sauce. Ooh. So this is really nice. It has a nice flavor to it. It's not a strong guava taste, but it's more like a sweet type taste. You all can choose whatever barbecue sauce that you want. I tend to like the sweeter side of it when I pour it on here because it just blends very well with the rest of the ingredients. So take this, right? And we're just gonna pour it on top. Now you're gonna pop it in the oven. I tend to, in the beginning, when I'm making chicken, because I want all the heat to get right in it. So I'm going to cover this with some foil paper. I'm gonna pop it in the oven. Time frame, we're just cooking. So I would estimate maybe about 30 to 45 minutes. Because I just really like the flavor to be all in it and simmering down. But what we're going to be doing is checking it as we go. Put a little bit of water in here because you don't want too much. Because once the chicken and all the sauces starts to render down, the water is going to settle in here and everything is going to start bubbling and getting all happy. So we're going to cover this with some foil paper. So then it keeps the heat inside the pan. So it doesn't dry out the chicken because you want your chicken to be moist. And we're going to pop it in the oven. All right, so while the chicken is in the oven cooking and getting all happy and those flavors are blending together, we're going to go ahead and make I just decided to make some corn souffle. So I was introduced to corn souffle from a Haitian friend. She every time we had a birthday celebration or anything like that, she would always bring corn souffle, and it tasted so good. So I said, you have got to give me this recipe. So I'm going to cook this from scratch. I know a lot of times I would use a corn muffin mix, but I don't have corn muffins. So I'm gonna use cornmeal and make it from scratch. And I'm praying and hoping that I do my Haitian friends justice by cooking this correctly. So I'm going to bring the camera a little bit closer so you can see what I'm putting into this bowl and stirring it all up and making it happy. So what we're going to need is cornmeal, of course, some sugar. We're going to have canned corn kernels, and then also cream of corn, some sour cream, as well as some eggs. And we're just going to mix that all up together with some melted butter as well. We're going to put it all together in a bowl, and we're going to stir it all together and make it blend all nicely. Pour it in a pan, and then we're going to throw it in the oven, because it's going to take maybe about 25 to 40 minutes to cook. So as the chicken is in there, both of those things can be in the oven getting all happy together. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is add in a half a cup of melted butter. That in there, and we're using a whisk, so just making sure all that comes out. Gonna add in 1 can of cream corn. Make sure you get everything. And then 1 can of just whole kernel corn. Put it in the bag. And then we're just going to stir it in together. Then we're going to put in 1 cup of sour cream. Make sure you get it all out. And then you're going to just stir this all in. You're going to put in 2 beaten eggs into the mix. Because we're making this from scratch, we have to add in some sugar. In the corn muffin mix, it already has sugar in there, so we're going to add 1/2 a cup of sugar. And we're going to add 2 cups of the cornmeal. One thing with this is that you're going to add it in slowly instead of just dumping it in there, because you don't want any lumps or anything like that, and you want a nice smooth consistency where everything will blend together. So you can see how that's coming. This is just 1 cup. Just go ahead and continue on adding a little bit at a time. And you would realize that it would start to get a little bit thick, but you don't want it to have clumps of the cornmeal in there. I'm adding a little bit of almond extract in there just to give it just a little bit of more of a souffle. I don't know. I just like the taste of it and the flavor of it. Not too much, because almond extract will be overpowering of the dish. Now you're just going to pour it. So I have a little glass pan. What you want to do is grease it. And I just used a little bit of the butter that I had left to grease it. Just grease around the sides of it, and then you're going to pour it into the pan. The oven is already at 375. So instead of, see if I can show you guys. So you're just gonna pour it directly into the pot, smooth it out. And my Haitian friends out there, if I missed anything, please put a comment in there. Let me know. I'm always looking to become better at cooking different dishes. So help a sister out. Now we're just going to throw this into the oven for 30 to 40 minutes. Let me turn this around. While those two things are cooking in the oven, a lot of times what you want to do when you start cooking, you want to cook the food that takes the longest first. So knowing that the chicken and the corn souffle takes about 30 to 40 minutes or 45 minutes to cook, you put those two things in the oven first. Later on, maybe when you're probably at a halfway point, we're going to start doing the potatoes. We're going to make mashed potatoes because the sauce from the cranberry is going to be used as a type of gravy that you're going to put over the mashed potatoes as well, and we're going to have some side vegetables with that. So keep your food in the oven. Just pay attention to the time of it, and then we'll be back and we're going to come back together and make these sides to go with this dish. So putting some water in a pot, turning it up to a high so it can come to a boil. One of the things that you do want to do is put some salt in there to season it so it seasons the potato as it boils. So we've reached about the halfway mark of the chicken and the corn souffle that's in the oven. Now we're going to get started on the potatoes. So first thing that what you're going to do is make sure that you have, if you have a trash can right there, you can have a trash can. This is my drink. So you have your bag here. You're going to have your potatoes. I tend to take out maybe about 3 or 4 medium-sized ones. It depends on the size of your family, right? Or how much mashed potatoes you want. Your potato peeler, and then you're just going to peel them right into the bag. I know back in the day, before we really had potato peelers, my mom used to use a knife and just cut through it. And I tend to like using knives. It just keeps me handy with it, so that you're not always cutting yourself, but every so often with the potato peeler, it gets very close. You're not cutting off a lot of meat. It's just straight off skin. And it's just it's so much quicker, So we're just gonna finish off doing this. And then we're gonna cut it up and put it into that boiling water. The water's on, is boiling. I put the salt in there and so forth. Now that we have the potatoes peeled, I wash them off, and then we're just going to give them a nice, big chop. So I cut it in half, then I cut it in half again, and I just cut it in big chunks. Nothing spectacular. It doesn't have to be even, because the point is that you want the sizes small enough, not too small, but you want it small enough so it can soften. If it's too small and you have all different sizes and stuff in there, it tends to get a little soggy, and you don't want that. I tend to do that when I make soup. So I have big chunks and I have small chunks, because then when the small chunks kind of dissolve down, really, you know, it's almost served as a thickener for the soup. So it kind of makes it a little bit thicker instead of being so watery. So we're just going to continue to chop these up, and then we're going to put it into the boiling water on the stove. So now we're just going to take the potatoes and drop it in to the pot. Careful of the splashes. So you notice that I didn't have the water filled up all the way to the top. By the time you add in the potatoes, it's going to rise up the water. So you don't want it to be all the way at the top, because then the water is going to overflow. When you have it probably about halfway mark and you put your potatoes in, you can always add more water, but once this starts boiling, you don't want the water to overflow and hit yourself. So just kind of use a spoon, I'm using a knife, but to just stir this around to make sure it's all the salt and the flavoring and all the potatoes that you just cut up is cut, separated. So now you're just going to let this boil, bring it to a boil, maybe for about, I would say about 15 minutes or so. You can test it by taking a knife or a fork and just touching one of the big pieces of the potatoes to just see if it cuts right through it, and that's when you know it's ready. So as you can tell, as we're cooking, we are constantly moving. We're constantly monitoring the different foods and different dishes, because you want everything to be ready at the same time, right? So now that we have the chicken in, we have the souffle in, the corn souffle in, and it's still cooking and it's simmering and it's getting happy. We have the potatoes on. We're going to start boiling them, but now what we're going to do is chop up some vegetables. You want the vegetables to be ready because we're going to give it a flash fry. You're not going to use a lot of grease. You're really going to use butter instead of grease, because it just absorbs into the vegetables a little bit better, and you don't want that greasy taste to it. So a flash fry is when you put the grease or the butter into the pan and you let it fry, but you don't keep on adding to it. So it's almost like a dry fry. You want to cook it, but you still want that little bit of crunch to it. You don't want to overcook it or over fry it, right? So this is what we're going to do next. But before we put it into the pan, we need to chop it up. So I'm going to have some I have some broccoli, I have onions, I have my peppers, I have some carrots. I'm going to put in some mushrooms, as well as some peas, some snap peas, or I might even use some Brussels sprouts. But, I have squash, so I'm going to use some squash and put that in there as well. So because we're prepping the vegetables, and I'm going to cut it up and I'm going to put it in a bowl, right? But I want to layer it in the order in which I want to put it into the pan. You don't always have to do that. If you want to keep it laid out on the counter, you can. I just know that when I'm ready to do the stir fry, I want all my vegetables together. So the way how I'm going to layer it, I have broccoli, I have snow peas, I have yellow squash, onions, and mushrooms. And I'm going to put all those together in one pan. The way how I'm going to layer it is that the thing that takes the longest to cook, you're going to put it into the pan first. The vegetable that takes the least amount of time to cook, you put it in last, right? But the way how I'm going to layer it into my pan is I'm going to put the vegetable that I'm going to put in last, I'm going to put it in the pot first, and then I'm going to layer it up in that way. So turn this around. So first what I'm going to do is cut up my yellow squash. Wash this again. And I'm just gonna cut off the top, just cut off the bottom. You can do this in many different ways. You can keep it in the circles, or you can, I tend to cut it in half, right? Just cut it right down the middle, lengthwise. And then I cut it in half slices. I cut it kind of thick because if you cut it thin, it absorbs the heat very quickly and then it gets kind of soggy, and I don't like soggy vegetables. So we're putting in our yellow vegetables, and then we're going to put it in the bowl. Cut up my onions. I'm going to use the rest of this onion. So you cut off the top, cut off the bottom, peel off. I tend to take the very first layer, take that off, and you're going to cut it into slices. So I tend to cut it lengthwise because I want long slices for my stir fry. And you don't need a lot. I don't like my onions too thick. So just to show you, maybe they're probably about different sizes. But I just don't want a lot. See, I don't want a lot, but I'm going to put this in here because the heat is going to render this down. Put it into the pot. Then I already have my snow peas. What I did already was that you cut off the ends. This is what I do. Cut off the ends because a lot of times it's kind of stringy. So I cut those ends off. So then all I have to do is just eat it. These in. And then I have my broccoli. So we'll cut the stem off and snap these things off. And you can decide how big or how small you want them. I don't like mine too big. So what I'm going to end up doing for these really big ones, I'm going to cut it in half. So I'm going to take a big one like this, see? And I'm going to find an opening between the florets and cut it in half. And then that way it's half size. Then once you finish off cutting all these up, then your stir fry is ready. I have some carrots in there too. So just kind of make it fun, and then you're going to use some simple seasoning of your vegetables. You don't want to over season stir fry because then it tastes kind of salty. And nobody likes salty vegetables. Not even me, and I like salt. So we're gonna test this out. Take a look at, I'm gonna take the foil off. Ooh, look at that. Let me bring this a little bit closer for you to see. Ooh, see how she's bubbling? Gonna put a fork into that corn souffle. I'm going to stir this juice around this chicken so it can get all in between the meat. So now you're gonna leave the foil off and let it kind of cook down from the top. It's almost ready. Let's take a fork for my corn souffle. And I think she's about ready. Yeah. All right, so now that the corn souffle is out cooling off, the chicken is almost ready, the potatoes are boiling. Now what we're going to do is put this stir fry, these vegetables that we've already cut up, and we're gonna put it in the pan. I'm gonna show you guys how simple and quick this is. So I'm turning the pan on to medium high, and I'm going to put a dollop of butter. So while this is melting down, we're going to use seasoning. So we're going to have some garlic, we're going to have salt and pepper, and you're going to put a little bit of paprika on top of it just to give it an in-depth flavor. Not too much because you want to still taste the vegetables. I'm going to put a little bit of this minced garlic that I have in there. And the first thing you're going to add is your broccoli. So give it a nice little stir around. I like my vegetables of various sizes. So now you can see the green of the broccoli start coming through, that nice bright green. That means the heat is starting to get to it. You can let this simmer a little bit, and then I did have a little bit of carrots, so I'm going to add the carrots in, then the snap peas. All right, so now the broccoli has absorbed all the butter. We're going to create a hole in the middle, and we're going to put some more butter in the middle. Stir in the carrots. So let's test out if the potatoes are ready. So you're going to take one, right? See where my knife is, right here. So you're going to take that and you're just going to cut. If it goes through smoothly, very easy, effortlessly, your potatoes are ready, and it did. So we're going to take this off and we're going to start getting our mashed potatoes ready. So while that is simmering, we're going to get to the mashed potato. I put some black pepper, now what I have here, my husband had gotten me stainless steel pots, so you can use metal utensils and you can actually cook and do different things in it without worrying about cutting the metal or releasing any poisons, especially those different type of pots that are coated, and looks very pretty, but you got to be very careful of the different type of utensils you have. So he had gotten me these stainless steel pots and pans, which is great investment. I encourage you all to do that. This is Calphalon that we have, but we don't have to worry about scratching of the pan and then releasing of any poisons that's in various pots. Put a little bit of salt in this, and then we're going to put some more butter in here, and then we're going to mash up the potatoes. So in this phase, it's all about the butter. And just mash. So you know that it's already easy because you tested it with the knife. And you just mash it up. If you need to put it in a bowl, put it in a bowl, and you add your pepper. I don't put a lot of seasoning in my potatoes because sometimes when you put too much seasoning, it just overpowers the potato and you just don't taste it. We like to taste the flavor of the vegetables and the food. I'm going to put some more. So you see how you're going to have to pay attention to both, right? And So this is always good to have your mashed potatoes, and when you're mashing that and you have stir fried, you have these things side by side, because you're going to have to do both at the same time. We're going to put some more butter in there. Put it in the center. Now you're going to add your snap peas and your onions. Give that a stir. So at this point here, you want to just put a little bit extra seasoning in there. So you're going to have some salt and pepper. Salt. Pepper. And I'm going to use a little bit more of my minced garlic that I get. And give that a stir or a toss. So there's a tendency of, when you're doing stir fry or different things that you're stirring, right, like this, the small things go down to the bottom. So this is why the broccoli, I'm not concerned about the broccoli being on this long or getting too tender, because these are the bigger vegetables or the more fibrous vegetables that are firmer, and it won't get soggy being on the fire this long. So now you're going to let that simmer. While this is simmering, you're going to get back to your mashed potatoes. So I'm going to put more butter in there, and we're going to mash this up some more. Whoops, it's popping. We're going to give the vegetables a little toss. Yep, it's almost done. Just a little bit, a few more minutes, and then I'm going to add in the the yellow squash. Now when I make mashed potatoes, sometimes if I have it, I put sour cream in there. It gives it this type of texture and flavor to it that makes it all nice and creamy and yummy. So I would say that's probably about a half a cup. Or maybe, yeah, about a half a cup. And we're going to mash this in. You don't have to put sour cream in there. I don't always put it in there, but whenever I do, it just comes out extra creamy. Okay, and then we're going to add something. You can add milk, we add cream, or call it evaporated milk. I grew up calling it cream. So just put a little bit in there, and then you mash it up, and then you can add more. Don't put too much in there, because then it gets all, too thin, and you don't want thin mashed potatoes, like liquid. I think I want to put some more black pepper in here. I'll go to a taste tester. Tastes good. I think this is a good consistency. Put this off to the side. I think they put on the burner on very low. So this is a dry fry because you see that it's not really oily. The vegetables are getting a little burn on it. And that's how I like it. Put in the yellow squash. Add in a little bit more butter. Every time you add a new vegetable to your dish, if you're using butter, just add some more butter. So this way your vegetables are not greasy, but you still get that stir-fried taste to it. Squash is not going to take that long to cook. Alright, this here is about done. We're going to top it off with some dry parsley. A little bit more salt, a little bit more pepper. Give that a last toss. See how quickly the squash? You don't want to get any more cooked than that. I don't like it too soggy. That's just my preference. Don't like soggy food. We are going to take out this chicken now. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Look at, look at, look. Delish. Gonna just take some of the sauce. See all the cranberries? So, see how the sauce is kind of thickening up, almost like a gravy? Yes. Just take some of this and kind of put it over it. You want to keep it moist. So, we're all done. Made the meal together. Now is the best part. It's time to eat. We're going to scoop it all up and I'll show you guys as I scoop it up how it's going to look, or supposed to look. Because remember, we're not chefs. We're just ordinary people cooking together in the kitchen. So let's start scooping it up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. A lot of times when I make corn souffle, for me, you know, the consistency is not always the same. But it feels great. It feels solid. Ooh, let's try it out. It broke a little bit. Oh, look. Oh. Put that down. Yes, it came out great. I'm so excited. Let's try it. Let's try it. Mm-hmm. Here you go. So here you go. We have cranberry barbecue chicken, mashed potato, stir-fried, and some homemade corn souffle. Perfect for the family. Perfect for the for having leftovers tomorrow. Using that cranberry barbecue sauce as some gravy over the mashed potatoes. So I hope you all enjoyed making this meal with me. We just made a whole dish. I think this is the first time. So I hope that, you would have a great meal for your family. You can switch it up a little bit. Make it your own. Make it creative. Make it yours. So I enjoy cooking with you. I hope you enjoy cooking with me. Like, subscribe, share it with someone that you think will enjoy this meal as well, and they can make a good Sunday dinner, a nice through the week dinner, a nice special occasion dinner, however you want for your family to enjoy. Until the next time, ciao.